What's up, guys? It's Avery Carl from the Short Term Show doing the intro for the Panhandle of Florida. We are doing a 10-episode deep dive on two markets here, both the Emerald Coast and the Forgotten Coasts of Florida, which basically makes up the entire Florida Panhandle. So 10-episode deep dive here. We are going to add quarterly updates, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. We also have some supplemental materials for you guys on our website. So anything you need to know about current short-term rental property pricing in terms of how much it costs to buy a property in these markets, you can find that on our website at theshorttermshop.com. You can also find current AirDNA income data, thanks to our friends over at, you guessed it, AirDNA. And we've got all that for you guys so that you can listen to this at any point in time and go find live pricing and live income data. Also, if you guys want to buy a short-term rental investment with a short-term shop agent on the Emerald or Forgotten Coast, you can just email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com and we will get you hooked up. These are two of my very favorite beach markets, by the way. I've chosen to live in the Emerald Coast. I also invest in the Emerald and Forgotten Coast, so very near and dear to my heart. Also, if you guys just have more questions and you want to chat about short-term rentals, we've created an amazing community over on Facebook with over 50,000 short-term rental investors just talking shop all day. It's got the same title as my book. It's called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. So head over there to chat more about short-term rentals. And if you want to chat live on Zoom, we've got a call every Thursday that you can join at strquestions.com. Happy investing, y'all. Hey guys, welcome back to another Emerald and Forgotten Coast episode of the Short Term Shop special episode series. This time we are talking about calendars and pricing best practices for these markets. And we've got a great panel here to help us do that. First, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Luke Carl, who is not paying attention.
Of course I am. Long-haired Luke in the house, host of the Short Term Rental Management Podcast, owner of the two longest running Airbnbs in the Smoky Mountains. I've done it all. I've said it all, and I'm happy to be here and share my crazy stories. I also happen to live in this market, so it's close to home.
Yeah, he's seen 1,000 faces and he's rocked them all. Or is
rocked them all. That's right. Money can't buy you happiness, but it'll buy you a boat big enough to pull up right alongside of it.
Mr. David Lee Roth. Next, we have Austin Lewis. Austin, introduce yourself.
What's up, guys? I am Austin, obviously born and raised Pensacola Beach. I am the agent that covers from Perdido Key all the way over to Fort Walton Beach and everything in between, which would be Pensacola Beach and Navarre Beach. I am also a Airbnb host and not the longest running anywhere, but I'm in it to win it.
Awesome. And next we have January Johnson. January, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Yes, thank you. January Johnson. I live in Panama City. I'm the longest running Airbnb host in the city of Panama City, and I have 4 short-term rentals, and I'm a community leader for Airbnb.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about calendars and pricing for this market. So let's start with lead time, because lead time, I think, is the number one thing. Lead time and seasonality together. Number one thing that really gets new hosts or even sometimes seasoned hosts really like outside of their minds when we get to a low point in the season and then they take to Facebook and, oh my God, I'm not getting bookings. And then we have to say, guys, it's May. May comes every year. September also comes every year. It's slow both of those times. Just chill. So let's talk about, first, let's hit seasonality, and then we'll talk about lead time. So what's the high season around here? When are you going to get booked? When are you not going to get booked?
Well, my experience is that March and July are the best months of the season. And that is because spring break is super in effect in March. Still in April also. And then July, of course, is peak summer season. So those are the two biggest months. But basically, our season runs from March 1st through Labor Day. And that takes us in. And even though October is a beautiful month to still be at the beach, and even into November, depending on the weather. But November and December are slower. And I tell people, if you have bookings in November and December, you should be really excited about that. And then that takes us back into January, February, and March, which January and February and March are snowbird season. So we have lots of those people and they come for longer periods of time. And then that takes us back into the high season that starts in March.
Yeah, pretty much the exact same. I mean, we're basically talking same area here. My properties are a little larger. I can't get snowbirds for, they just generally don't like larger properties. Both my houses are in the 3,000 square foot range. And, but yeah, same thing, you know, March 1st really is kind of when you start to remember that this house exists. And March and April are heavy. April's real heavy. May is a little down. Sometimes a lot down, but you know, like maybe 30% of a July, that kind of thing. And then the whole summer is crazy. Usually my houses usually book a little further in advance. Seasonality has changed a lot with COVID. Yeah, I find that my whole summer books up usually by, you know, first of May, give or take. My whole June, July, August are going to be pretty rocking. September is slow again. Nothing crazy, but the kids are going back to school and the summer vacations are kind of over. So it does slow down in September a little bit. Pretty similar to, I mean, really, honestly, it's similar to the mountains other than the winter time. I got ahead of myself. October is pretty heavy on my properties. They don't get like July rates or anything like that, but I will get basically, you know, I would say 3/4 of the month of October pretty easily. And then November, December, you know, you're probably going to get the holidays. It's no guarantee, but probably for a pretty decent rate. But first 2 weeks of November, first 2 weeks of December are a little rough. And then January, February is no man's lands for me because I can't really get a snowbird and just nobody comes, which blows my mind because it is my favorite time of year by far. I just love it here. There's no people and you can still wear flip-flops. You know, it doesn't really get crazy cold or anything like that. And so I just absolutely love living here in the wintertime. Yeah, I had one more point. What was it? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, for me.
Well, I want to say that those downtimes, I'm sorry, Austin, I stepped on you there. In the downtimes, like November, early December, that's a great time to go in and do any renovation or repairs or, you know, go visit your property, change out the couch, whatever you want to do. Those are good times for that. And it's a good time seasonally here too, to have work done because it's easier to get contractors who'd rather work in November, December than in the heat of the summer. So that's a good point.
Yeah. And it's a little bit time off from hosting people. I mean, you don't have to deal with guests as much and, you know, the revenue is going to be pretty similar. And, you know, as far as seasonality over here on my end, it's pretty darn the same. You know, like Luke said, the snowbirds, if you've got anything over a 2-bedroom, I wouldn't plan on getting any snowbirds, and cuts off October, November, December during the holidays. Like you said, probably going to get those. Actually, give you an example. I had a client buy last October, I believe is when he closed. I texted him in February to see how his year was going. He was a little nervous. He was just stepping out of his farming zone, I guess you'd say, where he's normally, he's always bought in Blue Ridge, bought down here. And he said in February, he had already had enough bookings to pay for his, basically to break even. So, which tells me he was probably priced too low, but, you know, so lead time is normally maybe a little bit higher over here, it sounds like. But as far as seasonality goes, it's all going to be the same.
Yeah, and I'll just basically say exactly what you guys just said. It's a little different vibe than my mountain properties where, you know, if I see something like a paint situation on a mountain house, you know, maybe say the Smoky Mountains, that kind of thing. I would maybe send somebody over there on my next, you know, break of a day or two between guests to kind of fix a few things, as far as like, you know, paint and cosmetics and things. But when it comes to my beach houses in this market, I'm always going to wait on that. In the summertime, you do not have time to get a painter in there. It's just jam packed. It's like, in other words, you ever get on an airplane, this is what it's like. If you ever get on an airplane that's a little late, like a little late getting in and they got to get it back out to try and get it back on time. And the stewardesses and the stewards or whatever, they're just like cranking that thing to get it ready for the new set of people getting on the airplane. That's kind of what it's like at my houses on this market in the summertime. So in the wintertime, that's when you go through and you replace all the little stuff. If we're still doing the airplane analogy, like the upholstery and the plastic trays and things like that. So it's just a slightly different vibe.
Is it any different down in the Forgotten Coast than Emerald Coast, or is the seasonality roughly the same?
Forgotten Coast is sleepy. It is sleepy. It books a little further in advance. The weird thing about well, at least where I'm at, I think actually Mexico Beach and Port St. Joe are probably a little heavier than where I'm at, which is the Cape. The Cape is its own animal. It's way out in the middle of the ocean. There was actually no properties on there at all. There was no structures there at all until the late 70s. And now it's got a lot of houses and things, and it's a really cool place. It's an interesting place. And you know, it's not something that a lot of people know about. I learned about it from Avery, and we bought a beautiful home there, and it doesn't have any restaurants or anything. I mean, it's just literally just, you're lucky you got running water out there, to be honest. And so there are a contingency of folks that go there every year, and they're familiar with it and they're in love with it. And again, it's only been around for 40 years. Well, with being able to sleep on it. But you know, it's definitely a different vibe. It is super sleepy out there. Everybody's like moves real slow and doesn't really, you know, like, what, you want me to do something? No, I'm going to go to the beach, you know? So it's a different vibe. Whereas Destin and Panama City Beach, things move fast and a lot of kids involved, people going to the amusement park and things like that. Well, I guess theme park we don't have, but we do have, you know, the pier park and things like that.
Yeah, gotcha.
But you also have scallop season that depends on the time of the year. And I know Austin can probably speak more to that. That'll get you a bump of people as well. And I think sometimes that's maybe in September.
Yeah.
Early August is when we normally go.
Okay. Gulf County is middle of August to the end of September. So you know, that's a little bit of an off season, but it's a bump for rentals down there. I know.
Yeah, totally.
I keep my prices real high on that Cape house. It's a different vibe for me because I'm so in love with it. Like I'm not really trying to crank that thing for every dollar it's worth. I kind of like when there's some gaps in the calendar because then we can grab the kids and go, you know, that kind of thing.
You could crank it if you wanted to crank it. I would be okay with
I'm pretty cool with where it's at. I mean, let me put it this way. It's May fun. Right now. There ain't no way we're going there until, you know, probably October because it's even though I keep it high, that summertime, no way, you know, I mean, it's packed.
Okay. So what are typically the lead times for bookings that we see? And I know it's probably going to vary depending on the size of the property, but is there any kind of average?
Well, for me, there used to be. I used to like, again, my houses are big. I like them to be about 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks in advance, if not more in the summertime. I just got the other day, I got a booking for the next day at my big Destin house, which I was like blown away. I was blown away that it was just a 1 day in advance for one thing. And I was also blown away that it wasn't already booked. I probably should have looked a little closer. It might've been a cancellation or something. So it's a little all over the now, but it used to be traditionally, you know, again, bigger houses for me. I'd like to be, you know, average for the year, maybe 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Now, like I said, right now, my summer times on both my Destin and my Cape San Blas house are gone. Except I think I still have 4th of July open at both properties, and that's because the price is sky high, and I got a little time to keep it where it's at. Again, we're recording this in early May, so. Yeah, I'm a little all over the place. I'd like to say 4 weeks if you had to give me an actual, you know, like I had to give you an actual number.
So I like to cover my calendar up certain times of the year or certain holidays and just wait until I call it scarcity marketing. And I'm sure I'm jacking with the algorithms and it might not be a good thing mathematically, but it's worked for me for 9 years. And that is, you know, covering up the whole week of 4th of July and then waiting until 2 weeks before the holiday and then uncovering it. And I can jack my rates up and you know, everything else around me is already booked already. And so I get, you know, people that jump right on it then instead of just waiting and letting it sit there. I kind of look and see what's around me.
Definitely. There's going to be some people that are procrastinators. And whenever they try to get on, I see like, you know, the Facebook groups, just local area Facebook groups. Hey, we're looking for a place to stay for 4th of July. And it's July 1st. It's like, well, you're going to pay out the yin yang for it if you can find something.
Fine with me.
Yeah, and I'll speak a little bit more about that way that January is doing it. I think that's a great way to do it for the right candidate. I don't like to to wait until the last minute unless it's like 4th of July. I think everybody will agree with me. Your guest company probably a pain in the ass no matter what. So I do like that strategy for a major holiday like that. There is an element there that, like, if you're waiting till the last minute, they only kind of picked your house because it was the only one available. And if everything had been available, they might not even looked at your home. So for that reason, I don't like doing it that way. But again, like I said, these high dollar holiday guests, they tend to not get out of the house that much anyway. So I think, you're definitely bringing in more revenue doing it that way for sure.
Yeah. So we're saying an average of like, how many weeks, Luke, did you say?
Well, here's the deal. Different times of the year. It's different. Right now I'm booked, like 8-12 weeks out. But if this was February, I would not be booked at all, really, maybe 2 weeks in March or that kind of thing. So it changes a lot, because, those summertime dates are so desirable. Those will book in advance big time. And then, so to give you an average for across a 12-month period, it's very difficult because it changes so often, but maybe 4 to 5 weeks. If you wanted me to nail it down to a 12, a full 12-month calendar.
I think a lot of people don't need to freak out if they don't have that same booking schedule. I see a lot of chatter on groups and, people are, I don't have bookings for June, or I don't have bookings for July. And it's, 2 months or 3 months ahead of time. Bookings come, but then also, what's going on at your property? Do you have professional pictures? Do you have, there's all kinds of other things that we could get into about why that might be, but there are things that you can do if you're freaked out about your bookings, but don't freak out.
What about minimum night stays? So I've seen some people do different things. What are y'all's recommendations for minimum night stays during the different seasons? Because this is a truly seasonal market, unlike some other ones. So I want to hear by season what you recommend.
I know a lot of people that have condos book 7-night stays. So like Saturday to Saturday, and then on Saturday is the big turnover day, and everybody's, it's a zoo getting in and out of the condo buildings and things like that. But you have week at a time guests and you have fewer turnovers. I had a 2-night minimum stay at my properties. My properties are not condos and they're smaller, but 2 bedrooms, and I have 1 3-bedroom. But I actually looked back like a whole year or two's worth of bookings to see how many nights did I actually have. And most of my bookings were more than 3 nights and more. So I just changed my minimum night stay to 3 nights because I thought, well, that's fewer times that I have to worry about a turnover, getting people in and out. So I do a 3-night minimum on most of my properties, and then I fill in gaps with 2 nights if there are some gaps.
Luke, you've got bigger ones over here. That's what she said. What is your minimum night stay strategy any different?
Yeah, most of my competitors are doing Sunday to Sunday because they're using property management companies. There's really not a lot of people out there that are really looking to self-manage a $2 million home. Most people that can afford that don't want to deal with toilets and reviews. And the folks on this call, we're the crazy people, But so most of my competitors are not. They're, quite frankly, they're not competition because they're not. They're not as good as I am. I hate to say it, and it's. Even if I wasn't that good, you could still say the same thing, So most of my competitors are Saturday to Saturday, and just because of the fact that I'm not, I'm able to really kind of crank it because property managers don't want to deal with anything less than the Saturday to Saturday. Which gives them a lot of disadvantages. Honestly, you're eliminating a lot of different bookings, and then also your cleaners don't like you because they have to go in there and turn as many houses as they can in one day. And these are a lot of times they're big houses, So most of my turns are going to happen random days of the week, like Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. And my cleaners are super happy because they're still keeping busy on Saturday with everybody else they're working for, that kind of thing. So I do like a little bit longer. Especially in the summertime, I would say maybe 5 days would be really nice, but I don't require it. I will probably require 4-night minimum across the board for the heavy summer months. But I will dip down. I will dip down to 2 nights occasionally. Like if I got a little gap in my calendar of 2 nights, I'll go ahead and do a little manual override on my PriceLabs for 2-night men. It's rare that happens, but when it does, it's either you deal with a 2-nighter or you don't get booked, you know. And I do like to have asses in the seats with my properties. No way. I'm doing 1-nighter. No way. Not my properties are way too big, and even the 2-nighter is super rare. But again, this goes back to more of a pricing conversation, quite frankly. And I just look at my calendar and I figure out what gaps need to be filled in, and I do whatever I got to do to fill those in.
I do a 5-night minimum over 4th of July, and I do 3-night minimums for Labor Day and Memorial Day.
Yeah, size of the property is definitely a big deal on determining that, I think. And I see a lot of 7 days around here, and you can always play around with PriceLabs, you know, and say, hey, if they're booking 6 months in advance, then let's do a 7-night minimum. And we start getting tighter to D-Day, then we'll drop it down some.
Okay, what else in terms of calendars and stays have we not talked about yet? There's kind of, you could go way in the weeds on this, or it could be like super short conversation. So what else do we want the listeners to hear about in terms of calendars and pricing in this market?
Well, I want to say that I frequently find, for a long time, I was just on Airbnb, and I find that Airbnb, their smart pricing is way, way too low. And I mean, they don't know when it's going to be bike week, and they don't know when spring break is. I mean, it's algorithms that are figuring things out. And sometimes you have a 6-month out booking and they'll tell you October is, you know, twice as high as it should be. So I don't do smart pricing on Airbnb. I do have PriceLabs now. And so I'm working on, you know, on those rules and algorithms, but that's more controllable, I guess I should say. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think you have to know the market. I encourage all of my buyers to subscribe to the local Panama City Beach and Destin and Panama City tourist newsletters, so that they know when the different events are and when they're coming, and they can manage their pricing themselves that way, because the algorithms don't always know that. So,
yeah. So let me ask this question first, and then I'll make the point I was going to make. So do you need to use a pricing tool?
Yes. Well, here, I mean, listen, if you're brand new and it's like scary and you're like, what is this thing? I have to learn this. This is crazy. No. It will honestly in the long run be harder if you're not using it, because they're really good these days. There is a downside there though. And we see all the time. I mean, more often than not, we see people that just sign up for PriceLabs or Beyond Pricing and never look at it again. And then they sit around and they say, well, why am I not getting any bookings? I'm sick of this thing. Let's get rid of it. Which, if that's you, by the way, call the short-term shop. We'd be happy to help you do that. Mm-hmm. But I'm kidding, of course, but not really. We'll sell your house for you. But it depends on how hard you want to work. If you want to maximize and get this thing like squeezed for every single dollar it's worth, and, you know, quit your job or something, which is ridiculous, but it's, you know, a lot of people want to do that. Then you're going to spend time on it. You know, I mean, I work hard. I enjoy working hard. To me, this is not work. I just enjoy it. And I love, because at the end of the day, this doesn't get talked about enough. I truly enjoy offering these folks a really great place to have their vacation. I'm actually more involved with my short terms today than I was ever was. I love making sure that these folks are happy. I like winning too, so that's part of it for me. I like to see my calendar full and my guests have a smile on their face. But you know, it's just like anything in life. The harder you work, the more time you spend on your pricing. That's the biggest part of it, period. In my opinion, short-term rental is pricing. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. But yeah, so more time you're spending, more money you'll make. Simple as that.
All right. So is there anything we can do? So I see a lot of people ask this question, is how do I get booked in the off season? What can I do to get booked in the off season at any size property? And is there a way to do that? Or is there even an answer to that?
I don't even care. I'm out on that. I don't even look. You just shut the house off, you know, and Christmas, and then you start doing you got to get that stuff planned in advance. You can't. another thing you got to realize, if you're new and you're like, oh, I'm going to get the stairs retreaded in January or something like that. If you wait around until January rolls around and you don't already have that job lined up, it ain't going to happen. You got to get these guys lined up 2-3 months in advance or more, because everybody's jam-packed with work in the wintertime, because they can't work in the summertime. The houses are booked, So I just turn it off. I feel like, with my beach houses, I feel like I'm a school teacher. I get the winter off, and I'm super happy with that. I love it. It does get a little stressful about third week of February, where you're sitting there like, oh my God, nobody likes my house anymore. Nobody's ever going to book my house again. And then all of a sudden you're just slammed with busy. So for me, again, larger properties, each one of all my bedrooms in Florida have their own ensuite. These are pretty nice big houses, at least for where I come from. I just turn it off and don't even think about it for about 2 to 3 months in the wintertime.
So I have smaller properties, and my properties are in Panama City, not Panama City Beach, but they're in a cute little fishing village area that's got lots of tourism and local things happening. But in the off season, I frequently have medical students. We have a physician assistant school in Pennsylvania that they send a lot of their people down here for rotations, physician assistant students. And so frequently I get a 5 or a 10 week stay for 2 or 3 of them. Being a community leader in Airbnb, but any group that you join that's a local short-term rental group, we try to help each other out. And so, frequently somebody will say, I've got a guest that needs a place for 3 weeks or 5 weeks or 10 weeks, and I can't accommodate them, who can. And so we'll share information like that among our hosts so that somebody can help them. And I think that's really important. I have contractors, there's colleges and shipbuilding companies and, contractors and things that come to town for different reasons. And, they're not going to book your 5-bedroom, fancy beach house, but they will book your smaller places. And so there's some advantages there, but a lot of it is word of mouth and networking with other hosts that can refer you business. So it's good to join the local groups, or have a group of people that you can bounce things off of for those reasons.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And so the point I was going to make about pricing tools earlier, I know I'm kind of jumping around, was that, so PriceLabs, I interviewed Anurag from PriceLabs on my big podcast a few weeks ago, and he kind of explained to me how all of this works. So they are watching all of the hotels and all of the short-term rentals in the area. And if they notice like a cluster of them getting booked at higher prices and raising their prices, then that's kind of how they adjust. So there are certain things that like they know are coming, like 4th of July, for example, but past that, they're watching what the hotel industry is doing too, to see, okay, are they raising their prices? And if they see any bumps, then they will recommend that you raise yours too. So it's really, really interesting how the pricing tools work. And I really recommend using a pricing tool, by the way, because there's just so many little things that we as people wouldn't know necessarily. But again, like Jan said, subscribing to those things that'll tell you, hey, we've got this coming up, we've got that coming up, to where too, because there will be times that the algorithm can't pick up on things to where okay, this isn't a time that I should probably raise my prices some. So you kind of have to do a little of both, a little bit of the technology and a little bit manual.
And I think knowing the events that are coming. So right now, Panama City Beach is all set up for Thunder Beach, bike week. And if you know the events that are coming, you can change your title of your listing, and you can say, bike friendly or room for bike parking or different things, different seasons, or maybe have your, do something special for the guest that's related to that event, or, you can make it attractive, for the events. Like we have an Ironman triathlon here and different things. So if you don't know about them, then you don't know to alter your listing to pull those people in.
Yeah, which is why we're so popular. Yeah, Ironman Florida's here. That's huge. And Thunder Beach happens twice a year. It's awesome. We're going this week. It's this week. We can't wait. We got every dad's coming down. We're gonna go see some rock and roll. Yep. And it's a wonderful, wonderful place.
Yeah. All right. So is there anything else that we haven't touched on in terms of calendars, pricing, lead time, anything that you think the listeners would benefit from hearing about?
Yes, I think we should address what happens when people want discounts on your pricing.
Okay, let's address that.
I'll let Luke go first.
Well, my house, they get a hell no. I don't do discounts ever. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. It doesn't get talked about enough, quite frankly. I got a strict no discount policy, period. I feel my prices are fair and market rate at all times. And if you give somebody a discount, they are going to take you 20 miles. It's just not for me. And it's not about the $5. It's not about the $50. It's not. It's about policy and procedure.
Yes, I feel like people who ask for if their first question is a discount, then I don't want them because they're not going to be happy with other things, or they're gonna try to nitpick and nickel and dime and so on and so forth. It's like, I like to say, thank you for your inquiry, but this is high rental season, and these are the rates, or these are the best rates I can offer you. I don't ever give a discount. I don't give a military discount. I don't give any kind of discount, especially during the season. I don't even give my friends and family discounts, what I tell them to do. The first year I had property, I did give a bunch of people free stays or, inexpensive stays. And then I changed that policy altogether after the first year. And I just decided that I said, go on Airbnb and act like you're booking my property, and then send me the screenshot of what you would be paying from Airbnb, and I'll give you a discount on that. And then, because then that's just basically, I'm discounting the Airbnb fees. I'm still getting the money, but I don't have to do that very often. But, when friends and family know you have beach property, sometimes they want to come, and they want to come in July. And I'm like, no, I give my assistant a week stay at one of my properties in the summer as kind of a bonus. She lives in Texas, but she doesn't come in July.
Yeah, unfortunately, the people that pay the cheapest are going to be the ones that complain the most, for sure.
All right. So I think we have a pretty across the board outlook on giving discounts. All right, then. Well, guys, if you want to buy a house with us in the Emerald or Forgotten Coast, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com. Or if you want to just learn more about short-term rentals, there are a few ways you can do that. You can join our Facebook group called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, same as my book. Or you can join one of our every Thursday live Q&A calls. You can sign up for those at strquestions.com. Thanks, everyone.